Hi, my name is Alexis Arnold, and for my topic, I will be discussing individuals with disabilities in the workforce. First, I want to talk about what is considered as a disability, and according to the ADA, the American Disabilities Act, disability is a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities, a person who has a history or record of such an impairment, or a person who is perceived by others as having such an impairment. So the American with Disabilities Act of 1990 was signed into law by President George H.W. Bush on July 26, 1990. This act forbids discrimination and prejudice against individuals with disabilities in employment, transportation, public accommodation, communication, and government activities. There are two agencies within the Department of Labor that enforce portions of the ADA: the Office of Federal Contract Compliance Programs and the Civil Rights Center. The Office of Federal Contract Compliance Programs has authority under the employment-related provisions of the ADA, and the Civil Rights Center is responsible for enforcing Title II as it applies to workforce-related practices of state and local governments. The ADA gives protection to individuals with disabilities of all races, colors, sex, national origin, age, and religion. It also guarantees equal opportunity for all individuals with disabilities. Some of the ADA guidelines. In order to be protected by the ADA, an individual must have a disability or have a relationship or association with an individual with a disability. The ADA protects you from job discrimination based on your disability and if you are qualified for the job. The ADA also protects you if you have a history of disability and against employers who believe you have such a disability even if you do not. The ADA prohibits discrimination in hiring, firing, application procedures such as interviewing, training, and employment benefits. The ADA also has reasonable accommodation, which is any adjustment to a job, application process, or the environment itself that will make it easier for individuals with disabilities to apply to a job or to perform certain functions of a job. Examples are making buildings accessible for individuals in wheelchairs and having interpreters easily available for those who need them. Some of the ADA titles. There's 5 titles altogether. The first title goes over employment. Under this title, the ADA states that a covered entity shall not discriminate against a qualified individual with a disability. This title applies to job application procedures, hiring, advancement and discharge of employees, workers' compensation, job training, and other terms and conditions of employment. Second title, public services, including public transportation. This title has 2 sections. The first section covers public agencies, local, state, and country. This section covers access to all programs offered by the entity. The access includes physical access that is described in the Uniform Federal Accessibility Standards, or the ADA standards for accessible design or access that may be obstructed by biases, policies, or procedures. The second section is specific to public transportation that is provided by all public entities. This section requires the provision of a paratransit services by public entities. The third title is public accommodations and commercial facilities. This section states that no individual can be discriminated against on the basis of a disability in regards to the full and equal enjoyment of the goods, services, and accommodations of any place of public accommodation by any person who owns, rents, or operates a place of public. Public accommodations includes restaurants, hotels, transportation, stores, and care providers. The fourth title is telecommunications. This requires that all of the telecommunication companies in the U.S. take steps to ensure equal service for consumers with disabilities, especially those who are hard of hearing, deaf, or who have speech impairments. The fifth title is miscellaneous provisions. Let's go over some demographic information. Individuals with disabilities tend to be older than those without a disability. In 2016, individuals with a disability over the age of 65 was 47%, as opposed to 50% of those with no disability. Women were also more likely to have a disability than men, and African Americans and Caucasians were more likely to have a disability than individuals who identified as Hispanic or Asian. 1 in 5 Americans have a disability, which adds up to about 57 million people in the United States who have a disability. Those without a disability might acquire one in the future due to an accident, aging, or disease. And only 65% of students born with a disability complete high school, and only 7% complete college. Now this is a little visual to show you more about the demographics. 41% is the percentage of people aged 21 to 64 with a disability who are employed. 8 million people 15 and older who have a hearing disability. 8 million people 15 and older who have a vision difficulty. 31 million people 15 and up with trouble walking or climbing stairs. 4 million people who use a wheelchair to aid mobility. As you can see, those numbers are quite high. So now I want to talk about the different models of disability. The first is the biomedical model. The biomedical model of disability is rooted in the scientific method and in the medical profession. This model gives credibility to the idea that disabilities are wholly an individual experience. Disability in this model is considered to be a malfunction, pathology, and deviance when compared to individuals without disabilities. The author Bickenbach described his definition of disability as deviance. The most commonly held belief about this model of disablement is that it involves a defect, deficiency, dysfunction, abnormality, failing, or medical problem that is located in an individual. We think it is so obvious as to be beyond serious dispute that disablement is a characteristic of a defective person. Someone who is functionally limited, anatomically abnormal, diseased, pathoanatomical. Someone who is neither whole nor healthy, fit nor flourishing. Someone who is biologically inferior or subnormal. The essence of disablement in this view that there are things wrong with people with disabilities. And thus, this model places individuals with disabilities in derogatory categories. Such categories include the blind or the deaf, and the individuals are viewed upon their category instead of their character. Now, this model is vastly different to the social model of disability. Now, the social model of disability was initially theorized by Michael Oliver, a disabled scholar. In this model, disability is defined as the product of specific social and economic structures and aims at addressing issues of oppression and discrimination of disabled individuals caused by institutional forms of exclusion and by cultural attitudes embedded in social practices. In simpler terms, disability has nothing to do with an individual's body, but instead it has to deal with society's attitudes. This model aims to improve marginalization and oppression caused by mainstream society and increase social justice for individuals with disabilities. Social justice is one of the core principles of the social work profession. Social justice seeks to increase knowledge, promote awareness about oppressed and vulnerable populations. Social justice efforts are often focused on issues surrounding unemployment, discrimination, prejudice, as well as on other issues such as poverty. Social justice is needed when we look at the barriers that individuals with disabilities face regarding employment. Now, this is just a visual that I find helpful to go over between biomedical model and the social model. As you see in the picture, there is a woman in a wheelchair. There's a sign that says, "Weigh in, everyone welcome." For the medical model, says her impairment is the problem. They should cure her or give her prosthetics. While a social model says the stairs are the problem. They should build a ramp. As you can see, the social model is more towards like helping individuals with disabilities, that they are not the problem, which most likely people with disabilities are told all the time. So some of the barriers to employment for people with disabilities are low expectations. Employees believe that individuals with disabilities will not be able to do their jobs efficiently and will cost them money because they have to do like accommodations, whether that have hire interpreters or make buildings accessible. Another barrier is stereotyping and the stigma surrounding disabilities, which also goes hand in hand with the lower expectations that employers face. Failure to diagnose a disability when the individual is young. Early intervention is important, especially for people with certain disabilities. There's mobility impairment. There's no elevators or ramps for individuals in wheelchairs or with physical impairments, because if they want to get a job, they either can't go in for the interview or they can go in for work, which is a big problem. Communication barriers in regards to hearing impaired or speech impaired individuals, and as well as transportation barriers that people with disabilities, if you call to get an interview for a job, and if you have a speech impairment or you're hearing impaired, you can't really communicate with the employer, and it's going to make it really hard for you. These are just some of the things that we can work on for the future to make everything accessible for individuals with disabilities. So there are strengths and benefits to people working in the workforce. According to the USA Today, television shows such as The Good Doctor, Born This Way, and Speechless are offering successful role models for individuals with disabilities. The Good Doctor is about a man with autism who is a doctor in a hospital. And Born This Way is about 6 friends who have Down syndrome in California, and it chronicles their lives regarding employment and relationships. And Speechless, about a 16-year-old with cerebral palsy going through high school. These TV shows put disabilities in the limelight in a positive way by showing that individuals with disabilities are just like you and me, and that there's nothing wrong in hiring people with disabilities, or there's nothing wrong for someone just having a disability as well. And according to the U.S. Department of Labor's Job Accommodations Network annual report, reported that the workplace accommodations not only are low cost, but they also have a positive impact in the workplace in many ways. This same report found that more than half of workplace accommodations cost next to nothing for businesses to implement. Examples are flexible work hours and allowing someone to sit or stand if they are working long hours. Some of the benefits of providing accommodations are improving diversity, improving productivity, and overall worker morale, sustaining valuable employees for many years to come. Some of the benefits of hiring individuals with disabilities are low absenteeism rates and steady employment. Businesses also describe their employers to be loyal, reliable, and hiring individuals with disabilities diversifies the work environment, which can lead to a positive environment for all employees. Now, we're not asking companies to make expensive changes to their businesses, like restructuring the whole building for access. We're mainly talking about small changes, like hiring interpreters. And this not only helps employees and future employees, but it also has customers who have disabilities as well. Now, former Congressman Tony Colho, who suffers from epilepsy, and it was one of the authors of the ADA, had this to say: few employers are willing to hire workers with disabilities. Fear is the biggest barrier. It is the fear of the unknown. The way to eliminate such fears is to hire persons with disabilities. You will find out that a lot of these things that you're fearful of are just not true. Now, there are agencies that help people get jobs. So today there are numerous agencies across the United States. So some of the agencies are Opportunity Works, which provides service and programs such as employment and support for adults with disabilities in Massachusetts. And then there's Mary Haven, located in Yaphank, New York, which provides services to train and find employment for individuals with disabilities, whether it be community-based or within Mary Haven itself. There's also OPWDD, which is the Office for People with Developmental Disabilities, located in Hopatcong, New York, which provides services and resources to assist individuals with disabilities in attaining their goal for employment. They also host an event called Works For Me, which honors businesses who hire individuals with developmental disabilities. So these are some of the agencies that, reach out to businesses, and they want individuals to be independent and to maintain a lifestyle for themselves. And I want to end this video on a happy note. I just want to show how excited this young man is that he found a job and that a job accepted him.
A very focused Ben.
LeBron James. Showing off his skills.
3 goals before he turns 21. Get strong, get a job, have a girlfriend. 1 he's working on.
We waited Monday,
Another took time.
Tuesday, Wednesday, and I was a little nervous.
A letter, not just any letter, an acceptance letter for an internship at Embassy Suites.
I've never videotaped anything in my life.
Listen of your experience.
But this moment needed it. In the kitchen, a 19-year-old learns his future.
It took forever because he was reading every line of the letter, which is why I kept saying, Ben, don't you get it? I'm like, this is it? Hold on, Mom.
Savoring the moment,
Employment.
word by word, including...
What does it mean?
Hold on. It takes time.
It takes time. Sometimes I'm not patient enough, am I?
Mom.
Well,
He figured it out at the end, and there's a little delay after he kind of processes it, puts the letter down, and then he just...
did you get it?
I get it! I get a job! I got the job! You got it, man!
This is absolute bliss. Nicole Bouvari sent that letter to 11 other special needs students.
When I saw that, I'm so glad that his parents taped it.
Can I have you here for one night, one person in the room?
It's here Ben will get valuable training. It's called Project Search.
Allow the opportunity for these young adults to gain independent living skills and employability.
Add that to the skills Ben already has. For one, making you smile.
You can't look at that video and not smile and be excited.
You did it! Yeah!
So 2 goals down, 1 to go.
Yeah, so you got a year to find a girlfriend, yeah?
Dad.
I'm just saying.
Okay, so I just want to thank everybody for watching my video, and these are the references that I used for the video. Thank you.